Marketing to doctors is like navigating a sailboat to your desired business destination of accelerated growth. So think of doctors' innate perspectives and behaviors as the wind. And it blows in a different direction than you're used to because suits, business-minded prospects, behave differently than white coats, your doctor prospect. Sometimes marketing to doctors feels like sailing into the wind. You'd think it would be impossible for you to move forward. But set your sails right, and you can sail even faster than the wind. And I'm here to show you how. However, today we're going to talk about the best thing about building business relationships with doctors. This is doctors' natural propensity to share helpful resources with each other. In today's podcast, you'll take away 4 tips to harness the full power of this force, to put the wind behind your back. Mastery of these best practices will help you join the high-performing financial advisors in the medical market. Welcome to the Engaging Doctors podcast. If you are a financial advisor who wants to accelerate your business growth by attracting, engaging, and serving more doctor clients, you are in the right place. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. I'm a retired surgeon, now in my encore career. I've spent the past 15 years helping financial advisors like you crack the physician code and reach the doctors who want and need your help. So let's get started. I was speaking with one of my private financial advisor coaching clients. We were working together on a new campaign he was planning to launch. He said, I'm going to have to pull the plug on this campaign. I have so many new doctors reaching out to me that I can barely find time to onboard them. That's a great problem to have, right? Well, what happened? This advisor had positioned himself so that the wind was squarely behind his back. He was now the go-to guy among targeted groups of doctors who networked together. Whenever a new doctor entered the circle, they heard, "You've got to see Dave," and Dave is not his real name. This is what you want to do. Position yourself so that you are the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors who share resources. Once that happens, you no longer have linear growth. You have exponential growth. Getting your first few doctor clients is like sailing into the wind. The barrier to entry in the medical market is higher than it is for suits. And I'm here to show you how to do that. However, once you're the go-to guy or go-to gal, you enjoy many benefits. Doctors' innate behavior includes sharing great resources with their colleagues. And if you do a great job, they will pass your name along. That's how I found my first financial advisor. Then the high barrier to entry becomes your friend, keeping your competition out. This is one of the main differences between suits and white coats. When financial advisors say nice things to me about the results I help them get, they say, "Thank you, I cannot believe how far you've taken me." And usually I will say, "Well, thank you. I'm here to make a big difference in doctors' lives. And I know that as I help more people like you understand doctors better, the more doctors are going to be served." So listen, if you have any financial advisor buddies who's interested in doing this, please feel welcome to pass along my name and my resources. And more than once, a financial advisor has said to me, "Why would I want to do that? You're my secret weapon. Why would I give away my competitive advantage?" So suits protecting their competitive advantage and white coats wanting to share helpful resources. This is an important difference. So I understand that as a suit yourself, you might overlook this natural behavior of doctors, but it is something that can propel you to accelerated results. So here are 4 tips to help you position yourself so the wind of the doctor's innate behavior is behind your back. Tip number 1, mind your medical manners. Imagine going out on a first date and discovering that this person has terrible table manners. They use the tablecloth as a napkin. They spit their chicken bones onto the table. Would you go out on a second date with this person? Manners matter. Good manners build bridges between people, and bad manners build barriers. However, different groups of people have different sets of manners. For example, when I visited China almost 40 years ago, the tour guide said, when we go into restaurants, you're not going to find napkins. You just use the tablecloth. And the way you deal with bones that are served in your dishes is just to spit them out onto the table. So Chinese diners have different manners than American diners. My brother once tried to convince my parents that burping at the dinner table was a compliment, but my parents didn't buy it. Okay, so in a similar way, good manners among doctors are different than among business owners. And this begs the question, how skilled are you at minding your medical manners? Here's why manners are so important as you build business relationships with doctors. Physicians and dentists behave like tropical fish. They tend to congregate together and move together under the direction of the leader. Doctors do it for the same reason tropical fish do it. It offers a protective strategy from predators. Now, doctors are the targets of financial predators. After all, this is a natural outcome predicted by Sutton's Law. When Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money is. The medical market is where the money is. Doctors want to protect themselves. So they see the world in terms of insiders and outsiders. Insiders know the secret handshake. They exhibit good medical manners. But bad medical manners mark you as an outsider, and there are business consequences to that. I was once a guest speaker at a seminar hosted by a financial advisor. At one point, the MC said, doctors and dentists. Well, I cringed because I knew he had just dropped a bomb. Dentists are doctors, and there were many dentists in the audience. He should have said physicians and dentists. I looked around the room, and all the doctors had poker faces on. I knew what was happening below the surface. I was not at all surprised when the financial advisor did not get a single doctor interested in taking the next step with him. And normally about 30% of the audience will sign up. This faux pas, doctors and dentists, had real business consequences. I believe that this single verbal misstep made by the MC, not even the financial advisor himself, contributed to the poor result. So still, if you look at the website of financial advisors who serve doctor clients, you will see the language, doctors and dentists. I promise you the doctor will click away because now you are an outsider. All right, let's just recognize you are not born knowing manners. This is something that you're taught. And specifically, since childhood, you've been taught how to conduct yourself around doctors. Think about what your parents taught you about going to visit the pediatrician. Wear clean underwear. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. It's natural to be intimidated by doctors. And just as an aside, I might just add that your parents might have told you to always wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. As the surgeon who evaluated car accident victims in the ER, I can tell you that never once did I hear a single doctor or nurse comment on the condition of a patient's underwear. Medical manners are so important that the entire first module of the Cracking the Physician Code bootcamp addresses the 10 laws of physician engagement and mastering medical manners. Now, I'm not saying you always have to be perfect because we all make mistakes. Whether it's an urban legend or a fact, there's a story about Queen Victoria hosting a guest from a foreign country. At the end of the meal, finger bowls of water were passed around so that everyone could clean their hands. The guest of honor had never seen such a thing, so he lifted the bowl to his mouth and drank it. Stunned silence passed through the room until the queen raised her finger bowl to her mouth and drank, and then all of the guests followed. I am here to remind you that you can lose the sale at hello if you do not mind your medical manners. So invest in learning what those manners are. Tip number 2, strategically choose your tribe. Your end game is for doctors who network together to pass your name around. Financial advisors who try to be all things to all doctors struggle. Financial advisors who strategically focus thrive. Focus accelerates growth. Most people naturally belong to tribes with about 100 to 150 members. So how do you figure out what your tribes are? Well, there are many ways of slicing the doctor pie by medical specialty, by gender, by hobbies. I work with a financial advisor who is wildly successful with Indian doctors. So how do you choose your tribe? Well, you want to find a good fit between the value delivered and the wants and the needs of the tribe members. For example, if you're a specialist in cash balance plans, your ideal tribe member is a doctor who has an ownership stake in the practice. One financial advisor decided that he wanted to work with foreign medical graduates. These are doctors who trained outside of the U.S. He built his practice by building relationships with the lawyers who help these doctors with visas, licensure, and credentialing. There are some ways to define tribes that just don't have the kind of networking that will support your growth. For example, a financial advisor was persuaded to be a sponsor for a local medical association. Most physicians belong to local organizations. However, the doctors in the associations don't naturally network with each other. The strength of the tribal connectedness is like the strength of the wind. So choose widely. This idea is important enough that it's the content of the second module of the Cracking the Physician Code course. Tip number 3, plant your flag in the medical market. What does a doctor want and need from you to say yes to you and your services? A doctor wants to work with a financial advisor who works with doctors just like them every day. When I got out of my surgical residency, I got hospital privilege to do pretty much every procedure I performed in my residency. This included what may be the hardest and most complex operations we perform, a Whipple procedure for pancreatic cancer. Well, when I went out and started my own practice, I never did a single Whipple. And over time, I lost those privileges. Why? It's because experience counts. Patients do the best when under the care of surgeons who perform high volumes of cases. And this is true of pretty much every medical procedure. So doctors know that experience counts. That's why doctors want to work with financial advisors who help doctors like themselves every day. They believe that this experience translates to better outcomes. We both know the truth. It's that you could help anyone build wealth. However, perception is reality. What does this mean for you? The high-performing financial advisors in the medical market have web pages just for doctors. They tell stories about doctors. They use medical metaphors. For example, let's say a doctor asks you about the safety of an investment you're recommending. You could say, "Doctor, I bet you wish you could tell all of your patients that they would have a good medical outcome. However, the reality is that any intervention comes with potential risks. It's the same when optimizing your financial health. There are risks, but they're small with this investment, and I believe that you're going to do well." This also means that you see the world through your client's eyes. The ultimate compliment is, "Are you following me with a video camera? You know exactly what I'm thinking." Tip number 4, master speaking to persuade. Your goal is to speak to persuade. The word abracadabra means I create with words. You are creating relationship and business outcomes with your words. When you speak to persuade, you enjoy magical results. You already know the ways in which you can help your clients. However, the way that you speak about it matters. Let me remind you that you're actually asking your prospects to do something that's hard to do. Change the way they manage their money. Change is hard for people. Further, we have lifelong habits about managing our money. So the status quo, the way that doctors are doing things now, is a formidable foe. So here are 3 specific dimensions of your persuasive speech that matter. 1, master the medical marketing handshake. The handshake began as a gesture to demonstrate that you have arrived at a meeting unarmed. As you build business relationships with doctors, show that you are not just armed with a sales pitch. Imagine if you had knee pain and you went to see an orthopedic surgeon. And then let's say before the physician even got your story or examined you, they launched into a pitch about their great new artificial knee. Would you let that surgeon operate on you? Probably not. You would not have the confidence that this surgeon knew enough about you to make a recommendation. Maybe you just needed ibuprofen or an injection. Here's an exercise for you. Just imagine that you're wearing the white coat and the doctor prospect is wearing the patient gown. How would you respond if the doctor was speaking to you as a patient the way you were speaking to the doctor prospect? If you want to conduct business with doctors, conduct yourself as one. 2, test and tweak your language. My secret sauce is the bridge I've built that spans the gap between the world of business and the world of medicine. Through my company, Engaging Doctors, I help financial advisors like you cross over the bridge and build business relationships with doctors. However, the bridge goes both ways. I have another brand called Thriving Doctors, in which I help physicians create lives of true wealth. Think of true wealth and burnout as the flip sides of the same coin. So I don't offer financial advice, but rather I walk physicians through a systematic process for making conscious choices about how they earn, spend, invest, and protect their money so they create the lives that they want. Well, my life would be easier if I just had one brand and one website. After all, it's the same bridge, it's the same idea. However, there's a reason that I don't. I use a different language when I work with financial advisors than with physicians. So here's an example of what happens if you don't recognize this truth. I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. It's part of my business education. One day, a doctor who sold synthetic cadavers went into the tank. This was a billion-dollar industry. He'd had millions in sales, and the sharks were engaged. And I thought, man, this guy is going to get a 5-shark deal. Well, then the questions started. Tell us about your revenue. Tell us about your profitability. And there on national TV, the doctor said, well, I suppose I could make a lot of money, but money is not that important to me. I'm doing this because I want to make a difference. And with that, 4 sharks were out immediately, and he lost the 5th shark within a couple of weeks. So what was happening? It was not about the value that this doctor was bringing. This was a great business. The problem was that this doctor was not speaking in ways to persuade. Now, I also want to mention to you that one of the core difference between suits and white coats is their relationship with money. And it gets down to the metrics for success. You as a suit want to optimize your profitability. I'm committed to helping make that happen. However, doctors measure success by the impact that they make. And we know that service and profits are intertwined. However, if the primary metric is profitability, then you invest in things that make you more profitable. But please understand that doctors are most interested in making a difference. And the more money that they have, the bigger difference that they could make. If a doctor is really passionate about rescuing abandoned dogs, maybe they could adopt one of these stray dogs. Or maybe they could make a significant investment to an organization, or maybe even form their own organization. So it's important to speak about money differently when you market to doctors. Doctors love my book, The 9 Money Mistakes That Doctors Make. Now, this is a book that I, as a doctor, wrote for my peers. Many financial advisors give this book away to doctors as a lead generation campaign. I'll leave a link and you can download the book, but specifically take a look at how I speak with doctors about money. Look at the medical metaphors. You can definitely borrow some pages from this book and start speaking with doctors that way too. Next, educate to inspire action. Whether you're educating individual prospects or you're delivering a presentation, many financial advisors have the approach, well, if I wow you with all that I know or how great my products or services, you will say yes to me. Here's the more effective way to think about the educational process. Think about a doctor standing on one side of the Grand Canyon, and where they want to be is on the other side. Your services offer a bridge to help doctors get to where they want to be. They don't need to know about all of the construction details. They just want to know that you have experience helping doctors get to the other side safely. When I talked with my patients about their upcoming operations, I addressed the things that were important to them. Where would the incision be? How would we manage their pain? How long would it take to recover? I did not tell them about the suture material. They trusted I would make the right choice. I was certainly happy to answer the question if anyone asked, but it wasn't important. As you look at your educational efforts, ask, am I talking about the things my prospects want and need to know to move forward? Or am I talking about the suture material? Creating a mind dump is really different than saying to your prospect, look, I have experience, I can help you get to where you want to go. Let's take that next step. So let's just recap. Your goal is to get the business outcomes with doctors by positioning yourself so the wind is behind your back. That means positioning yourself as the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors. You want doctors passing your name around and getting your phone to ring. When you do this, you see sky-high returns on your investment. And as far as I'm concerned, overcoming the high barrier to entry in the medical market is minimized by this potential for high returns on your investments. Please also recognize that doctors naturally share great resources with each other. Let me close with one last story. A financial advisor was able to get in front of a group of residents. I recommended that he invite the retired chief of surgery to be there to introduce him. So this surgeon was there to introduce him. He stayed for the entire talk. And then after the talk, he and the financial advisor and I just sat down at a table in the cafeteria to get caught up. In the middle of the conversation, this guy pulls out his laptop from his briefcase, opens it up, and starts writing emails. And the financial advisor just sort of looked at each other like, what is this guy doing? And after a while, he told us what he was doing. He said, this talk was so good that I think that you should deliver it to every residency program. And I'm just sending out an email to all of my buddies. So your transformation from where you are now to where you want to be is supported by these 4 tips that will help you become the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors. Mind your medical manners, strategically choose your tribes, plant your flag in the medical market, and master speaking to persuade. Even if you've struggled in the past attracting the attention of doctors, you might be closer to success than you think. It's simply a question of understanding how doctors think and network and make choices, and then aligning your actions with the natural behaviors of doctors. What are your next steps if you want to work with more doctor clients? Well, subscribe to the podcast for more insider strategies on working with doctors. Go to Engaging Doctors and get on the mailing list to get regular updates about events that I host. And if you're very serious, I invite you to explore the Cracking the Physician Code Bootcamp. This has been described as medical marketing school, and it will help you take the fastest and most direct path to success in the medical market. So tune in for the next podcast episode where I will address a common question: how do I get past the gatekeeper? Thank you for your time and attention. This is the right place and the right time to mine the treasures in the medical market. Stay tuned, and I will show you how.